the pound hitting a fresh 31-year low this morning. Clearly, that's acted as a bit of a short-term shock absorber for the economy post-Brexit. But how much more of this free fall in the pound we've seen this week can you take before it really brings into question the credibility of the strength of the economy?
Well, our economy is fundamentally strong, but we're now going into a period of uncertainty because of the Brexit vote. Our growth figures, our employment figures for the first half of this year have been revised upwards. We're probably going to be the highest growing G7 economy this year, but next year will be a slightly more turbulent period. We don't target any exchange rate. The markets will set the exchange rate that's right for the economy, but we're confident that once people look at the fundamentals and look at the process, things will settle down.
One of the reasons, of course, for the fall in the pound, not quite so recently, but over the summer, has been the loose monetary policy. Mark Carney, of course, cutting rates recently in August. Yesterday, in her conference speech, Theresa May, the Prime Minister, very critical of loose policy. She said, people with assets got richer, people without them have suffered, adding, a change has got to come, we are going to deliver it. This, of course, coming from the Prime Minister. Are you going to intervene in Bank of England policy? What did she mean by that?
No, the Bank of England is independent. The Bank of England has control of monetary policy. The statement, a change has got to come and we're going to deliver it, was a much broader wrap-up statement to a list of concerns that she'd listed, that ordinary people feel that the economy isn't working for them. And one of the examples she used was the way that loose monetary policy has inflated asset values, widening the gap between the rich and the poor. It was one of a number of issues she referred to.
But the Bank of England can freely set interest rates, but quantitative easing, which was reintroduced in August, requires your approval as Chancellor. So moving forward, no more approval for that.
Well, I can't say that. We will look at any case put to us by the Bank of England in the circumstances. And I approved a round of quantitative easing back at the beginning of August as a response to the shock that the economy had felt. But we are conscious of the impacts that quantitative easing has, and we will use it carefully and cautiously.
Chancellor, you're here in New York to meet various bank CEOs, Wall Street CEOs. What are you doing to make sure that New York doesn't become the clear global #1 financial centre?
Well, we very much think that it works best for the world to have two global financial centres in London and New York. We think that it's in Europe's interest that London continues to be a global financial centre, and we'll obviously work with our European Union partners as we negotiate our new arrangements with them to make sure that London continues to serve the whole of Europe as a global financial centre. In the meantime, what I'm doing here, and we're also doing, of course, in London, is talking to the banks and financial sector players to understand their specific concerns, their priorities for this negotiation process going forward, looking to address those concerns and reassure them where they feel uncertainty about the future.
Going back to Theresa May's speech yesterday, she was critical of international elites, and she said specifically, if you're a boss who earns a fortune but doesn't look after your staff, I'm putting you on warning. This can't go on anymore. Was that a warning for the Wall Street CEOs specifically that you're meeting and other bank executives?
Look, what Theresa May was doing in her conference speech was flagging a phenomenon which is not just British, but you've seen it here in the US through the presidential primaries. We're seeing it in Europe with a resurgence of extreme right-wing parties, where although the economy is doing reasonably well, there is growth, a lot of people feel disconnected from that process. They feel that it's passed them by. Globalization is hurting them, not helping them. And we have to reconnect with those people. We have to persuade those people anew that our liberal market economics, our capitalist system, really does deliver for everybody, because we're not going to be able to sustain support for the system if so many people feel excluded from it. And where we see abuse, and we have had one or two cases in the UK recently which are clearly abusive, where we see abuse, government will intervene to make sure that the model of a free market economy is working as it's meant to work.
So in that sense, are there similarities with what happened in the UK with Brexit and the rise of Donald Trump in the United States?
I think there are. I think it's that what Donald Trump calls the middle class, disenfranchised middle class. We would describe them differently in Britain, but it's the same group of people who used to expect to earn good money from doing good, solid, but relatively low-skilled jobs, who now find that they're displaced perhaps by either by imports as a result of globalization, or by migrant workers coming from Eastern Europe and working for very low wages.
Without serious change, is capitalism actually under threat in the West?
No, I don't think capitalism is under threat because, look, we've tried other models. Maybe you haven't, but we have tried other models in various parts of Europe. They don't work. They don't deliver for people. Capitalism is clearly the system that delivers a rising standard of living for people across the globe, and it's doing that job. But we have to make sure that we spread the fruits of capitalist success in a way that is sensible and fair. And I think there is a sense that over the last few years, the benefits have become too concentrated among a small elite, not spread widely enough across the economy, and that's what we intend to correct.
And Chancellor, just very quickly to wrap things up, we mentioned her already, the Prime Minister, Theresa May. Is it refreshing to work for a female leader?
Theresa May and I go back a long way. I have a good working relationship with her. I don't think gender is the dominant factor. We've had a female Prime Minister before, of course, in the UK, and as I remember, that worked extremely well.